I'm 35 now. What advice would you give to your 35-year-old self?
Figure out a way in life to pause. Find your pause. Find your thing that allows you to step away. Find a new way of looking at whatever the situation is, business, personal, etc. If you pick your habits that are personal to you, I think you design a life of N of one, your life, I think you'll find more success in life. The more that we let habits come in from somebody else, the less happy we are.
What is your favorite city to travel to? Is it Aspen or the Hamptons?
Bruh.
I love both. I love Surf Lodge in Montauk. I love the Snow Lodge in Aspen. I actually like going to Tokyo, Japan.
Who is the crazy successful but also low-key serial entrepreneur who sold his startup for $850 million to Oracle and has invested in over 100 startups himself? Today, we talk to Jonah Goodhart. And side note, he's also the co-owner of one of the hottest spots in the Hamptons, the Surf Lodge. We're your co-hosts. I'm Cherie.
I'm Jean.
And we're the Tiger Sisters.
In this season of Tiger Sisters, we interview the most amazing set of founders, CEOs, and business leaders. First, we talk to Jonah in an interview, and then right after that, Cherie and I talk about all of our takeaways from the interview in kind of like a business school case study method way.
We'll get to the interview right after this break. Hey guys, quick break to let you know that we now have merch on sistersmatcha.com. We have sweatshirts and t-shirts that we designed ourselves. Go check it out. And please rate us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. These ratings are so important for the distribution and survival of Tiger Sisters podcast. Thank you for your support.
Jonah, why don't you start with introducing yourself?
So I'm Jonah Goodhart. I am the co-founder of a company called Mobian. We're building an AI-powered contextual classification engine. So said really simply, we want to build a new way to look at the content on the internet by leveraging AI.
Okay, Jonah, I'm 35 now. What advice would you give to your 35-year-old self?
The advice I would give to my 35-year-old self is figure out a way in life to pause. The idea, I think, of pausing is incredibly impactful. And by pause, that can mean taking a break. That can mean stopping what you're doing. In the religious world, maybe it was on a certain day we don't do things. And if you sort of step back from that, it's essentially taking a pause. It's stopping. It's not being a part of it. In some ways, it's the only way to get out of some of these cycles that we're in as a society, is just to say, I'm going to pause and not be a participant in that for some period of time. And so what I would say is, find your pause, find your thing that allows you to step away and find a new way of looking at whatever the situation is, business, personal, etc. Take a pause.
Yeah. Oh, I fully subscribe to that because I think my generation, like millennials, a lot of people are discovering sabbaticals for the first time, especially a lot of people who are like in their 30s and haven't taken time off for like, life milestones, such as like taking like a month off for, your wedding and honeymoon or taking maternity and paternity leave. Like people are now like baking in sabbaticals into their like overarching career plans.
Totally. And I think it's also just on a daily basis, figuring out what do you do during the day that gets you to step out of it, right? So there's these things where we feel like we have to take some action or we have to respond or we have to post something on social media or go back and forth. I think the only way out of that dynamic is to pause, is to disconnect, is to say, I'm not going to be a part of whatever that thing is. And so I think figuring out what is it in your world that lets you pause on a daily basis, not be on email, not be on text, not be on social media, not whatever the thing is that is pulling you in one direction or another, stop doing it for some period of time as a daily habit. I'm a big believer in daily habits, and that if you pick your habits that are personal to you, I think you design a life of N of one, your life. And if you pick your habits that matter to you over time, I think you'll find more success in life. And I think that the more that we let habits come in from somebody else, the less happy we are.
I love that. Okay, Jonah, what was your first job and how did that influence your career or like how you approach work today?
Yeah, my first job was working at Dairy Queen, painting a fence and picking up trash.
Some Huck Finn.
I thought it was great. I loved it. I loved the idea that I was independent, that I could make some money, even though it wasn't much money. But the idea that I could do something and feel some sense of pride of being able to be independent. I think that the idea of working hard was instilled in me at a young age. And I think there's something really, really great about it. I think that we have this idea of so-called retiring and, all of these different concepts that we sort of create as a society. And it's great. If you want to retire, whatever that means to you, wonderful, more power to you. But I think there's something that we've sort of missed. And I think the thing that we've missed is what my oldest brother calls the happiness quotient. And the idea of the happiness quotient is that you see people who are 100 years old and they don't seem like they're the healthiest person, and they eat bad food and they're not exercising, they're not doing the things they're supposed to do, and yet they live to 100. And you see other people that are in incredible shape, and unfortunately they die early. And the difference perhaps is not just whether they follow a healthy regimen. The difference perhaps, my oldest brother would argue, and I agree, is something that we don't totally understand, and that has to do with happiness. And the idea that if we're happy, if we're living the life that we want to live, that maybe that contributes to longevity. I see people like Warren Buffett in the business world, or it was 93, I think, Charlie Munger, who died at 99 and a half years old, growing up eating, fast food and soda every day and not working out, yet lived a lot longer than, and Warren Buffett's still living, than a lot of other people. I think the difference is they figured out happiness. They figured out what was happy for them, what they enjoyed doing, what drove them. And I think there's got to be some of the calculation has got to be that. It can't simply be that you have to eat perfectly and live this perfect healthy lifestyle, because we see lots of examples of people that do that and they're unhappy. And so I think it's trying to figure out how do you get to happiness for you?
The happiness quotient. I like that. I'm gonna start quoting your brother. Okay. How about, what failure in your life are you most grateful for, and why?
Well, I have had plenty of failures. One of the failures in my life in the business world was that we built a company, my middle brother and I, in college, and we were doing phenomenally well. We thought we were the top of the world, that we had figured everything out. And we even got an offer to sell our company to Lycos at the time. And we turned them down. And we thought, this company is never gonna stop growing. We're crushing it. It's going to be incredible. And within a year, the business had almost completely gone out of business. And of course, the offer to sell the company was no longer there. Now, as it turns out, had we done that deal, we would not have ended up on the path that we got on, which is we partnered with somebody else. We ended up helping create another company, which led to a third company that we were involved in. And had we not done that, we wouldn't have gone down the path we're on today. And so I think you don't know, I think Steve Jobs actually said, you don't know how these things are going to connect in the future.
Yeah.
And so you can't sort of judge it too much in the moment, but at least if you have a belief that things happen for a reason, and I am someone who believes that things happen for a reason. And so you don't know what that reason is going to be today, but keep a positive attitude as best you can, and keep driving for happiness.
Yeah, I'm the same. The older I get, the more I subscribe to that. But were you like devastated at the time?
Yeah, I mean, we were definitely seriously disappointed, because it felt like it's worse to feel like you had something that you lost, right? If you didn't have it at all, if you didn't get to that point. Prior to that, we were a couple of kids on financial aid at college, so we didn't have anything. So there was nothing we were concerned about. But at that time, we were given an opportunity for life-changing financial reward and et cetera. And we turned it down. And so you feel like, oh man, we really made a mistake. We really messed that up.
Yeah.
And you start sort of questioning everything. And I think that you don't know how that road is gonna lead. And so if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would say, don't sweat it.
Yeah.
It all happens for a reason.
Oh, I love that. What's a hot take or like a contrarian belief that you have in your industry?
Well, one of the things, I've been in the digital advertising and advertising measurement industry for a while, in digital advertising now for 26 years or so. And one of the things I think that I've learned is that advertising is just about people. And I think if you mention advertising to people, they go, ads. Everyone loves to hate ads, right? They think, it's an ads thing, it's whatever. Yet advertising, if you think about it, is storytelling. That's what advertising is. It's literally just paid distribution for storytelling. And storytelling is the most foundational concept of humanity. It's how we communicate. It's how we've communicated over centuries. And so for me, I think there's a misunderstanding at some level of what ads are when done well, right? And in any industry, in any category, when not done well, nothing is good in that case. But when done well, ads can be inspirational. They can be certainly informative, certainly fun, and it is truly a story. And stories can be heartfelt and meaningful and drive us and help us be happy.
You're really good at storytelling. That was really good. Okay, just two more. What is something that you feel like is really valuable that you've gotten out of conference, or like what were you looking forward to most from conference? Like either of those.
The number one thing I get out of conference is just the interactions with the people. Imran is such a force of nature, and he brings together really not just people who have done something interesting in their lives, and all the people at his events have done something interesting, but they're people who are intellectually curious, who want to learn, who want to talk, who are not just coming in and leaving as people do at some events. People are coming here for the purpose of interacting with the other people who are here. It's a small event. It's invite only. I'm honored that I've been able to attend Imran's conferences since he started. And there's something special that he has curated here. And it's a group of people who want to learn, who are humble, and who are willing to put themselves out there and learn something. And some of the people, you walk around and you go, wow, this person leads a tens of billions of dollar public company, $50 billion public company, $100 billion public company. And yet they're walking around with everybody else, and not just there, but having conversations, engaging, wanting to learn from you, and vice versa. And so I think he curates just an incredible environment where people want to meet each other. And in the end of the day, I think business is about people, right? The thing that we misunderstand about AI, the hottest topic, and certainly something that I believe, as probably most of us do watching this, that it will revolutionize the entire world. It absolutely will. But in the end of the day, AI is here to serve people. We don't go away in this whole AI equation. We may change some of the things we do, but in the end of the day, we're still going to be there. We're still going to eat food. We're still going to interact with each other. We're still going to have dreams and visions and goals. And AI is going to be there to help support us as human beings. And so I think that the interesting thing is humans plus AI and how that future works, but it is AI in service of people.
What is your favorite city to travel to when you're taking a break? And is it Aspen or the Hamptons?
My favorite city, I don't know if I would say Aspen or the Hamptons, although I love both. I love Surf Lodge in Montauk. I love the Snow Lodge in Aspen. But I actually like going to Tokyo, Japan. And the reason I like Tokyo is because it is so completely different from my world. It is, one, beautiful and imaginative and creative, but it is an environment and a society that cares about things in a really unique and special way. You won't see trash all over the place, as an example. You will see people that take honor in what they're doing in their day-to-day lives. And you see just a incredible environment. A lot of people, a lot of business, still people transact, lots of things are still happening. It's a successful, very successful society and culture, but it's very different from other places. And so I think going to Tokyo and going to Japan in general is an opportunity to pause and really think differently. Certainly, I'm American, I was born here. And so being able to be somewhere that is totally different and looks at things in a totally different way is incredible and fun and inspirational. So I would say Tokyo for a city and Japan as a country.
Oh, fantastic. We're going in November and again in
Amazing.
May. Yeah. Okay, well, that's it. Great
Cool.
job.
Awesome.
Oh my God.
What an interesting conversation with Jonah.
Yeah,
That
he's
was
a real
really special.
thoughtful guy.
Super thoughtful, and I'm so excited to get into the takeaways. But before we do that, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. We would so appreciate it if you could rate us 5 stars if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And we'll get right to the takeaways after this break. Hey everyone, quick break to share something special. Sisters Matcha. We've launched limited batches of ceremonial grade, single estate, single cultivar matcha, straight from the family farm Sheree worked on in Japan. It's pure, authentic, and crafted with intention. Head to sistersmatcha.com to grab yours before it sells out. Make matcha your daily ritual for lasting energy and focus.
And we're back. Let's start with Sheree. What was your first takeaway?
So something that I think the viewers and listeners will not see because it was off camera is that before this interview that we had with him, we literally sat down with Jonah for like an hour, and
Longer than an hour.
I lost track of time, but like we sat down, we talked about our life stories. He's so interesting and so incredibly humble, and like he doesn't even mention it because like in this interview he just doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
He's literally sold one of his previous startups to Oracle for $850 million.
Wait, I literally forgot that.
Isn't that insane?
I forgot that.
Yes.
What?
And of course he doesn't mention it because like all of these, I think, very super successful people are just like incredibly humble and they don't hype themselves up. So Gene and I need to hype them up.
Yeah.
He's also worked with his brother. He told us that he has like more than one brother, but he's like worked with like both of them in different capacities, which is so interesting because like I think it's special working with a family member. He's talked about that, and also he is part co-owner of the Surf Lodge in Montauk, and then also a similar one but a ski version in Aspen. He's just like so humble, so interesting, so smart and thoughtful, but like
Yeah, he's kind of a Renaissance man.
he really is.
And he also like, I don't know if this like comes across as much in the like interview setting, but in our conversation with him, like I have to describe him as mesmerizing. Like why else did we like end up talking to him for like an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Like learning his entire life story, like
Yeah.
telling him our life story. Like he
makes you feel special. Like he's one of
Yeah.
those people, like, you know how they always say that there's like people who like when you talk to them, all they focus on is you.
Yes.
That's like
that might be his superpower.
I think so.
Yeah.
Which is why I think in this interview he made lots of eye contact
Yeah.
with the audience.
He's mesmerizing.
He's mesmerizing. So I just wanted to put that in there because I definitely know that was not mentioned in the interview. So
Yeah, we like didn't talk about his accomplishments at all. We're so rude. We're like, just tell us your advice.
yeah.
Give us advice now.
Yeah. I really liked that Jonah, when we asked him about his first job, he brought up working in Dairy Queen. The biggest takeaway for me is that like no matter what you're doing, no matter what your job is, whether you're a kid or you're an adult, like do it with pride. Every job is hard and you can always find pride in what you're doing. And I think those people who are able to do that just like go way further, you know? Like people can tell that you're like proud of what you're doing and proud of the craft.
Yeah, like recognizing the value of work.
Absolutely.
Nobody works anymore.
Nobody works anymore. If you're feeling like honestly with yourself that you're like not proud of what you're doing, or you're not proud of your output, your deliverables with work, then like maybe you're not working in the optimal role or job that is like right for you at this right time.
Jonah was saying that some of the things he did was at Dairy Queen were like painting the fence, picking up the garbage. Like I don't think he was like, this is going to be my role forever and this is my like dream role in life. But he was like, this is where I am now and I have pride in what I'm doing and my contributions. And he said also, I think he said that it taught him basically just the value of hard work. Like it's not like a new concept, but I think having that early on in your life and learning to kind of like also enjoy what you do is important, because he also then related it to the idea of the happiness quotient and the idea that like so many people think of work as just something to like muddle through from 9 to 5 from the ages of, you know, 18 to 67 or whatever it is, and then you finally get to retire. He is very much of the mindset where he was like, no, I think the happiness quotient is if you enjoy what you do, you never want to retire. You want to keep doing it. And he used the example of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, where they were and still are investing well into their 90s, and they're, you know, legends at the craft.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of his role models.
If you love
that
what
way.
you do, you'll never work a day in your life, is what they say. But honestly,
Not to be trite,
but like when I see professors at Stanford, especially the ones that are like pretty old, like objectively, like in their 70s, they have many decades of wisdom. Like I think of Glenn Cremon and Joel Peterson, Irv Grousbeck, who are in their 70s, and also Irv Grousbeck, I think, is 89. Like
what?
And still teaching at Stanford GSB.
Legendary.
Legend.
But that's like actually legendary.
Well, also I had a coffee chat with him. He was kind enough to, like, he wasn't even my professor. I didn't have a class with him, but he did a last lecture series with us.
Oh, that really touched you.
Yeah, I was like writing notes the entire time, and then I asked him for coffee. We sat down, I told him my life story, and then I was just like, so what's next for you, like in teaching in your journey? And he's like, well, I'm going to be teaching at Stanford until like I start drooling.
I love that.
Yes. And I think to me that
Even
also,
then, why let drool stop you?
seriously,
And Grousbeck needs to widen his horizon.
that's true. I think to me that is a model of happiness. I think it keeps the brain going. If you can keep working into your 70s and 80s, late 80s, that is a goal of mine, actually.
Yeah.
If I love what I'm doing, I don't want to stop working. It's exciting to me.
Yeah, because it's not really, I guess it's work, but you're building, you're creating, you're generating.
Well, now they're empowering too, and like bringing up the next generation. They feel like they have a hand.
Yeah.
And like curating, massaging the minds, you know, of young people.
I've always thought that after I retire, whenever that is, I would become a professor. I've had this like sort of dream ever since I went to Dartmouth that I would then move to Dartmouth, buy a house on Ockham Pond, which is the main pond
Where people go ice skating, right?
Where people go ice skating.
Yeah.
And then be a professor at Dartmouth.
You would want to live in Hanover?
I don't know.
You would fly in.
From Washington State.
Yes, exactly. Long commute.
Yeah.
That's a pretty long commute. Yeah, I think it'd be fun to be a professor. I also would want a role where I would have influence over young minds, and also
she wants power.
no, it's more like
Guiding.
yeah, like I think guiding people, helping people learn, and also like I think it's really interesting, like what Imran said in our conversation with him, like having a pulse, like
that's true.
and checking in with young people and knowing what's going on all the time. Like how exciting if when I'm 80 and I can have friends of different generations who are in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And they'll be like on the hippest whatever. Like they're not even born yet. When I'm 80, like those people are not even born yet. Can you even imagine?
They're minus 60.
Or maybe they're born actually. They're born right now.
Okay, you know what would be really like a kind of like cool goal or North Star is for if you're like, my goal is to be the coolest 89-year-old everyone knows. And then also for me to like still be friends with people of all generations at any age.
I think that's hard. My speculation is that I think that's hard to do. But if you can achieve it, like you will live a very rich life. Very rich life. I mean, if you're 89 and like you don't have grandchildren and you're not like friends with, you know, people of that age, like how do you even meet young people? Like you guys are in different spheres. Like you don't really come across one another ever.
Yeah.
Socially.
Well, I mean, I figure, you know, a lot of my friends will be young because I'll be dating like a 25-year-old AI, you know?
Well, then will your friends just be AIs?
The AI will, listen, in the future, the AI will have both AI and human friends.
Okay.
So it'll be a mix.
Okay.
And they'll be embodied AIs.
I didn't know you were going to say you were going to be dating a 25-year-old AI. I thought you were just going to stop at saying you're dating a 25-year-old, which I was like, sure, go you, more power to you, mama.
One takeaway that I really liked from Jonah that seems simple but is hard to execute, he said, figure out a way to pause. And I feel like there's so many different ways you can interpret it.
Right.
Because a pause can be any length.
That's what he said when you asked him what his advice was to his younger self.
Yeah. I was like, what's your advice for your 35-year-old self?
Yeah.
And he said, figure out a way to pause. And like initially I had thought he meant, like the way I had interpreted it at first was I thought he meant like take a sabbatical.
Yeah.
Because I think like at 35, usually you've been sort of like grinding in your job and like rising through the ranks and like building up your career for like 20 or so years already. Wait, not 20, like 15-ish, something like that. But then he also meant it in a sort of like daily way.
Yeah. I took it as a more daily way. That was my interpretation of it.
One of the examples that he said was he meant it in like a weekly way. He was like, oh, like, for example, you have the Sabbath. That was like the original intention of it, is every Sunday, God was like, put down your smartphone. He was like, put down your slates.
Put down your
stone
cuneiform.
slates.
Put down your hieroglyphics.
And just enjoy the people around you.
Yeah.
Like something like that, like gather. And so I guess I actually like that it's kind of vague because there's so many different ways to apply it.
Yeah.
But all of them are true.
That kind of makes me think about my schedule now. You and I are working like every single day. Should we have a day of pause?
Yeah.
As God intended us to have?
Like if we wanted to instate it.
Yeah, a little bit more and be more
intentional about it.
Yeah. We kind of do that on Sundays. Like when we had our like groove, we had like our cardio dance class, we had our farmer's market. That was really nice. And of course we like built in work, but like I like that routine that we had.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be Sundays, although I guess it's good because then it would coincide with like most other people.
Right. When like stores are also closed sometimes or restaurants are closed early, you know, like people are trying to rest as well.
Yeah. But I do think like you're very good at building it, at baking in a moment of pause like on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because you make the matcha.
Oh, yeah.
She makes the matcha.
I thought you were going to like give me a backhanded compliment. You're like, you're so good at resting.
You're just so good at resting.
You're so good at not doing anything.
You're so brave in taking the time that you need every day
to like not do anything.
When I am just like working so hard like on the side and you could see that I'm like killing myself, but you're so brave to honor your truth.
Thank you.
Rest.
Yes, thank you. I honestly, I think I should be doing it more because like, I don't know, it's just a lot. We're grinding a lot.
Yeah. I also think like, not to like talk too much about this topic, but there also is a difference between like active rest and then like distracted rest.
Oh, for sure.
Because I think I do a lot of like distracted rest because my way of like winding down and like disconnecting, I guess, is like watching TV, or like it has been recently. And so, but you're not really like resting, you're still consuming. Even if it's something as like mindless, like beautifully mindless as like Love Island, for example.
Famously Jean's favorite TV show.
It's not my favorite TV show. I just think it's one that a lot more people should give a chance to. And, you know, you don't need to be snobby about it.
What do you think about disconnecting? That like if you were to trade in, because you only have a limited amount of time to rest, what if you were to trade in your connected rest to disconnected rest? Like just to get off Wi-Fi. And you've been doing that. You've been taking walks and stuff. But like I wonder if you could do more of that to like actually feel more rested.
It's hard because sometimes when I'm doing my like TV watching, I'm still multitasking. Like I'm still doing something else at the same time.
That's not resting.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, there's not judgment. It's just I think an observation. Like that's not resting. And maybe that's also
It's like relaxing, but it's not really pausing. Not to get, too
she's trying to put different labels on it. Girl, your brain is still working one way or another. Like, I think you should do watercoloring or your jewelry making. Like, that is, like, to me, more disconnected if you're looking for a way to pause more rather than relax. Because sure, maybe they are different. Sometimes I say good things sometimes.
I'm saying because I don't know if I agree with her, but we don't need to get much more into it. What do you guys think?
What's the harm in trying?
Yeah. Okay, well, let us know what you guys think between like resting, pausing. Do you have like a routine around it?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's partially because he's been so incredibly successful, but he's very much of the mindset of, things happen for a reason. Like he said that like a few different ways.
Yes.
And I think like one of the things that he reflected on, or one of like his experiences, was that he said when he was really young, he and I think his brother had started a company, and they had made like what at the time was a massive blunder of turning down like an acquisition offer for what he says was a life-changing amount of money that like wasn't even ever imaginable to them at the time. And after they turned it down, like the opportunity basically like went away, like the company kind of crumbled. And I think he spent like a lot of time, he didn't say this explicitly, but I think it's like only natural to have a lot of regret after that and be like, oh my God, I made the wrong decision. Like, how could I have done that? But it ended up being that like that is what eventually led him to start that next company that then he sold for $850 million, and then like led him to do on like all the things that he's achieved ever since then.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's like one of those things where it's like, is it attribution, like backwards looking attribution bias? Is that
a bias?
Just like if you're like telling the story being backwards looking, like you can attribute one thing to another when like maybe they weren't actually related, but he thinks that they're related.
Yeah.
Right?
Life is all related. Well, he quoted Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
He was just like, it's this famous Steve Jobs quote where Steve Jobs in his like 2004 commencement speech or something was just like, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. You have no idea how these things lead to one another, but like your life is all related. Yeah.
So I think sometimes it's important to remember that when things seem not great, because like, I don't know, there's always going to be a time, I think, in everyone's life when you're like, holy crap, I made a huge mistake, or I think I've made a huge mistake. And when you hold on to, decisions that you've made with like a lot of regret, when you could just potentially spend that energy on something that's more forward looking.
Yeah.
That's definitely something that like I personally have been trying to work on like the last few years. And one of the things he said is like, he's like, I remember he said something about like, oh, it's almost better to have never had something or like known that something was offered to you than to lose it, to feel like you've lost it. I think that's very much like human nature, because human nature is to be loss minimizing as opposed to like gain maximizing or something. Like people are always more likely to want to protect downside and not lose what they have versus like put it all out there to try to
gain more. Yeah. I think it's challenging day to day to like have that mindset, but it's like, obviously like he's so successful that it's just like, oh, this is what the mindset that he's had and how it's helped guide him through life, and he can connect to the dots. I was just like, I kind of love that. I want to be reminded of it every single day. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of the Tiger Sisters. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening to this podcast episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we would so appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review. It only takes a few seconds and it means the world to us. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Bye.